Our movie begins with Jay, his wife, and their kids, who are heading out to spend their vacation at a large resort called Anemka. The resort's manager welcomes them personally, greets them warmly, and offers them drinks. Meanwhile, Trent and his sister Max go exploring the place, and they're thrilled by everything they see. They also meet a boy named Adleb, who turns out to be the nephew of the resort manager, and Trent plays with him. Later that night, we see Jay and Priska talking to each other, and it becomes clear they're planning to separate, with this trip serving as a goodbye. Priska asks Jay to let their kids know about the decision. Soon after, Jay and Priska start arguing, raising their voices, and their kids are in the living room overhearing every word, clearly saddened by it all. The next morning, the family is on the resort's private beach, and the manager comes by to tell them there's another secluded beach nearby. He mentions it's a private spot, rarely used, and suggests they spend a day there. Jay asks if the offer is just for them, and the manager says he made it because he felt comfortable with them. Promising it'll be a day unlike any other, Jay agrees, and the family heads to the beach. When they arrive, they find another family already there: Dr. Charles, his wife Christine, his mother, and their daughter Kara. The driver tells them he'll return to pick them up at 5. The day begins with everyone in high spirits, enjoying the place, and the kids eagerly dive into the water. Soon, they find lots of toys scattered along the shore, looking like they've been there for ages. There's also a famous rapper at the beach, and Max wants to take a picture with him, but her dad says no. Trent is having a great time swimming, but suddenly he bumps into something strange. When he looks, he finds it's the body of a girl, which freaks him out, and he quickly gets out of the water. They pull the body out, and the rapper recognizes her as his girlfriend, explaining that she left him, went into the water, and drowned while he was looking for her. But people start to suspect he might have been the one who killed her. Dr. Charles even asks him why his nose is bleeding, and when he tries to deny anything, the doctor suggests the girl might have been defending herself when he attacked her. However, the rapper insists he did nothing wrong, but no one believes him. They try to contact the police or the resort management, only to realize there's no signal. Another family, consisting of Garrus and his wife, arrives, but the others don't know how to break the news about the body. At this point, Dr. Charles's mother falls ill, and he goes to check on her. After that, Priska calls her husband Jay, saying she feels something strange in the place, and when he arrives she points out how their son's clothes have suddenly become too tight. Jay is baffled by what's happening. Meanwhile, Garrus tries to leave the place and reaches a cave, but he's unable to exit and ends up passing out. We then see Charles's mother as her condition worsens, leading to her passing. Priska starts searching for her children and is shocked to find them standing in front of her, visibly aged. She recognizes them with difficulty. Trent runs toward his mother, who embraces him, equally stunned. Meanwhile, everyone else is terrified, as anyone who attempts to escape the beach faints, and is quickly returned. Charles picks up a knife and cuts himself, but the wound heals immediately, leaving only a small mark as if it had happened long ago. Everyone becomes frightened by what is happening. Charles explains that he has a blood condition, which is part of why he came to the beach. At the same time, Priska's health begins to deteriorate. Jerry's examines her and tells her husband that she has a tumor. Her husband mentions it's very small and doesn't affect her much, but the doctor insists that the tumor is massive. Priska faints from exhaustion, so the doctor decides to perform a surgery to remove the tumor with the tools on hand. The doctor starts opening the area around the tumor, but the wound heals instantly. He asks everyone to keep their hands on the wound to prevent it from closing too quickly, and they manage to remove the large tumor. Afterward, the wound heals rapidly, and Priska regains consciousness, with her husband explaining what happened. Later, everyone is shocked when they hear someone shouting in fear. They approach and find him pointing to his girlfriend's body, which has decomposed and turned into a skeleton in less than 3 hours. They realize that something on the beach is affecting time. Jerry's tells them that the children have aged rapidly and estimates that each half hour on the beach equals a full year of life. Jerry's explains that the beach has special properties, and the rocks and pressure separate them from the outside world, creating a different time zone on the beach. When asked if there's a way to leave without fainting, he explains that it might be impossible due to the pressure, comparing it to someone at the bottom of the ocean trying to rise quickly, only to be affected by immense pressure their body can't withstand. He suggests that someone could try leaving the beach very slowly, but they worry that this would waste years of their life, and the attempt might not even succeed. At that moment, Charles asks about his daughter Kara, and they tell him she has been in the tent with Trend for a while. They then see Trend and Kara emerge from the tent. Trend is visibly older, and Kara, now next to him, is 6 months pregnant. No one can comprehend what is happening. Jerry's tells them that Kara will likely give birth in about 20 minutes and asks them to prepare the necessary supplies for the delivery. Trend, still in shock, can't understand how the pregnancy and birth are happening so quickly, as he still has the mind of a young child. Kara goes into labor, but the baby doesn't survive more than a few minutes and dies because it couldn't withstand the accelerated pace of time on the beach. At this point, Charles loses his mind, hitting the ground in frustration and desperately wanting to escape. He grabs a knife and attacks Jay, stabbing him until Jay dies, then walks away to sit alone, trying to think of a solution to their dire situation. Jay tells the others that this may be due to a psychological illness. He approaches Charles, convincing him to drop the knife, takes it, and then places it in his wife's bag. At this moment, they notice someone nearby watching them from the mountains surrounding the beach. They all gather to try to find a way to escape. Jerry's decides to dive into the sea and swim until he reaches a nearby shore, thinking it's worth the risk, as he feels he will die here anyway. Then, Priska talks to her husband, revealing that she has figured out their presence on this beach wasn't a coincidence. They were purposefully chosen. She notices common traits among each family or group in the area. One of these connections is that every group has a sick person, like her, who suffers from epilepsy, and Charles, who has a mental illness, something they only learned after his wife admitted it, especially after he killed someone with a knife. Priska also realizes everyone there received the same invitation, delivered in the same way, which indicates that someone planned for them to be in this place at this time. Next, we see Maddox, who goes into the ocean to calm herself down, but the waves are intense, and suddenly she collides with another body. To her shock, she discovers it's Jerry's body, and when they bring him to shore, they confirm that escaping by swimming isn't possible. Everyone becomes deeply discouraged. Then we shift to Trent and Kara, where Kara is seen cradling her deceased child, unable to let go despite knowing very little about motherhood and mentally still in a childlike state. Trent tells her they need to bury the body and takes the child to do so. Kara becomes very upset and decides to climb the mountain to escape. She actually starts climbing, and as the others notice, they run toward her, trying to stop her, fearing that if she passes out due to the pressure, she'll fall from the mountain and die. Once Kara reaches the halfway point, she loses consciousness and falls to the ground. They believe she's dead. Trent is heartbroken, unable to bear looking at her broken body lying there. They decide to leave her and move away from the area where she fell. Later, Tricia starts experiencing another seizure, but this time it lasts much longer, and they can't help her until she dies. The small duration of her seizure becomes extended due to the accelerated time on the beach. At this point, signs of aging start showing on everyone due to the rapid passing of time. Jay can no longer clearly see who's standing in front of him due to his deteriorating vision. His wife Priska also shows signs of aging. Her hearing begins to weaken, and she can't hear what they're saying clearly. Even the children age quickly. When night falls, Jay sits with Priska, feeling deeply saddened by what's happening to them. He wants to tell her that aging has visibly affected them both, but he notices her hearing has declined. Just as he's about to ask her what happened, he senses someone approaching but can't make out the person's features due to his weakened vision. It's Charles, who is holding the knife he used to kill Missy after stealing it from Priska's bag. He moves closer to Jay and starts stabbing him repeatedly. Priska quickly escapes and tells her children to hide because Charles is having a psychotic episode and might harm them too. The group enters a cave hidden in the mountain, and Priska goes back to rescue her husband. However, they're horrified when they hear Kara's voice. She's still alive and crying because she has aged dramatically, having been just a child a few hours ago. She tells them her bones break whenever she bumps into something. Every time Trent tries to light a match to see her, she throws sand on it to put it out, so he can't see her. He tries again, and she picks up a rock to throw at him, but it falls from her hands after her bones fracture. She tries to get closer to him, but with each step, more bones break until she dies. Afterward, Trent rushes out to see his mother, who had injured Charles with a rusty knife. Charles dies quickly as the rust spreads due to the time acceleration on the beach. Jay's family sits together on the beach, and we see Priska and Jay showing signs of rapid aging, on the brink of death. They look at each other, knowing their lives will end in moments, as Jay rests his head on his wife's shoulder, then dies within seconds. Priska dies shortly after. Only Trent and his sister remain. Trent asks his sister if she remembers what they wanted to do when they first arrived on the beach. She recalls wanting to build a sandcastle, and they start building it as a way to accept their fate, realizing they, too, are about to die. Then Trent remembers when he met Idlib, the nephew of the resort owner, who gave him a note in coded symbols, asking him to keep it. Trent recalls how Idlib taught him to decode these symbols when they played together. He decodes the note and realizes that Idlib's uncle hates coral reefs. Trent understands that this clue was Idlib's way of helping them. Trent and his sister decide to swim through the water and find a path made of coral. We learn that Idlib's uncle hates coral because it's the only way to escape the beach. Meanwhile, the driver who brought them there is watching from afar and calls someone to report that the last two subjects in the experiment are dead after they went into the water. Believing his mission is complete, he plans to return to the resort. The scene shifts to the resort manager, standing in a lab, asking all the scientists for a moment of silence to honor the experiment participants who died on the beach. They discuss using the beach's unique properties to test treatments for many diseases, though it will take a lot of time and effort. The head doctor reports that they found a cure for Patricia's epilepsy. She took the medicine at the hotel before going to the beach and had no seizures for 8 hours, which would equal around 17 years without seizures under normal conditions, marking a major success for the treatment. The resort manager comments that the beach allows them to test medications that would normally take years in just a few hours, due to the beach's special rocks and atmospheric pressure that accelerate time. He announces that new tests will be conducted on some patients currently staying at the resort, and asks everyone to prepare for the next experiment. Meanwhile, Trent and his sister successfully escape the beach without the watchman noticing, as he assumes they would drown due to the time acceleration. Trent carries a list of names of everyone who was on the beach, which he hands to a police officer at the resort, telling him what happened and asking him to investigate. Meanwhile, new guests arrive and are offered the same drink as the others before them, which contains the new experimental treatment. But Trent quickly approaches them, knocking their drinks away, and warns them not to drink anything there. The officer verifies that the names on the list match missing persons, confirming Trent's story. Trent later reunites with Idlib, giving him back the note he was given before going to the beach. They realize that they managed to escape thanks to the coral reef, which regulated the pressure and stopped the time acceleration. Trent and his sister reach the shore, and upon seeing the fish swimming around them, they realize they're back to normal time since the fish around them are alive. They swim to shore, and the officer issues warrants for the arrest of everyone at the resort, which is then shut down. Trent and his sister, Maddox, are saved. And that's how our movie ends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.